been a hard week, followed by other hard weeks. I think it was just last Sunday that we prayed for all those touched by the mass shootings in Las Vegas, including members of our congregation who were touched by that event. The Sundays before that, we prayed for Hurricane Maria, Puerto Rico, which we keep in our hearts. The people there are suffering deeply and terribly. Prayed for the people of Florida, Hurricane Irma, people of Texas, Hurricane Harvey. Before that, we prayed for the people of Mexico City and Oaxaca, the earthquakes. It's been a hard week followed by a hard week. Sunday, my mother is here, taking refuge from the fires in Northern California. Her Santa Rosa home is okay, but her family was not okay with her staying. I know many of you have relatives and friends who have been touched in one way or another, some barely escaping with their lives, many losing their homes or their livelihoods or both. And of course it brings back the memories of a couple summers ago when our ashes and when our decks and our cars were covered with the ashes of devastating big surf fires. And we can give thanks that the Pfeiffer Bridge is now open. You can go to Nepenthe easily. St. Paul, in the midst of his own disaster, says to rejoice always. But that is hard counsel. If you find it difficult to rejoice just about now, when not only these national tragedies have taken, or these international tragedies are taking place, but then there's also many things, immigration and health insurance and all kinds of, many things. Find it difficult to rejoice right around now. That's entirely understandable. The truth is, lament is the other side of rejoicing, and we have much to lament. Yet, at the same time, we are called to the wedding, to the Lamb's wedding feast, an occasion which promises abundance and joy. And of course, this is a metaphor, right? This is a metaphor for the whole vast web of life, for God's visible and invisible realms of love and life and liberty, for God's graces are immensely more powerful and abiding than any tragedy. And so it is in this consciousness, with this consciousness, that Paul says to rejoice. Rejoice in God always and in every circumstance. On Tuesday this past week, I was at a Red Cross disaster volunteer training with people of every ethnicity. I'm telling you, everybody was there. Teenagers up to, the elderly. Every ethnic group, every social class, every tattoo, short hair, long hair, it was a banquet hall. It was literally a banquet hall, actually. We were at a literal banquet hall at the Doubletree Inn in Roanoke Park. It did make me think about the gospel this morning. I mean, everybody was there. We were in a banquet hall. Good, the bad, the ugly. And we were all donning the clothes of service. All of us willing to wade through the paperwork and the lines and the waiting and the interviews and the trainings, willing and ready to help in any way that presented itself. Now, the way that presented itself for me was mostly in delivering supplies to shelters and taking care of family. And that was possible because of the support from a whole host of other people. Jim and Debbie took Zammy, my little dog Zammy, at a moment's notice. Tralee handled administrative details here at the church. The wonder of cell phones kept me in touch. We're blessed to have a deacon who this morning is sending her son off to boot camp to be trained on behalf of all of us. So that's where a deacon is. And this is just a drop in the bucket For every person serving in disaster zones, there are a multitude of others who are serving by supporting. The truth of this wedding banquet, this gospel wedding banquet, is the same truth that disasters make very clear. And that is, we are a vast web of mutual interbeing. None of us is an island. None of us is alone. We are all of us interdependent on each other. And by the very fact that we are drawing breath, by the very fact that we got the winning evolutionary card, that we're here in these human bodies on this planet Earth, breathing this air, by that very fact, we are all called, we are all invited into this vast web, this godly, ongoing wedding feast. And by God's grace, no one is excluded. The well-connected, the lonely, the bored, the overfed, the underfed, the sick, the well, the mean and the nasty, the sweet and the nice, the argumentative, the curmudgeonly, the autocratic, the community organizer, the disruptor, the union president. In God's realm, no one falls outside the arms of grace. But here's the deal. In the final analysis, it is God's party. It's God's party. And it turns out that it's not enough to just show up, to just take a breath. You also need to participate. If God wants you to don the clothes of grace and service, then don the clothes of grace and service. It's a BFD to be invited, okay? So don't just show up. Participate. The truth is, we have a choice in every encounter, in every moment. We can respond to others with the same grace that's been shown to us. We can give generously and with whole hearts. We can focus on the beautiful and the serviceable, or we cannot. And our choices matter. They have consequences, bigger consequences than we might imagine. And that might sound harsh to our ears. This gospel passage sounds harsh to our ears. We are very, very attached to the God of great grace. We are not so enamored with the God of expectations and judgment. But in Matthew especially, we hear over and over again that God expects his people to act like his people, to clothe themselves with love for others. There's a Billy Sunday saying that is too true to not repeat. Going to church doesn't make you a Christian any more than going to a garage makes you an automobile. That's good, right? In this respect, the Gospel of Matthew and the Epistle of James have a great deal in common. The book of James emphasizes the same things that the Gospel of Matthew emphasizes. Here's from the book of James. He says, "What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith, but do not have works? Can faith save you? If a brother or sister is naked and lacks daily food, and one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, keep warm, eat your fill,' and yet you do not supply their bodily needs, what is the good of that?" There's this great story of three of my favorite preachers. And it's going to sound like a setup for a joke, but this is a true story. Tom Long said that one day he and Barbara Brown Taylor and Fred Craddock went to an Atlanta Braves game. And unbeknownst to them, it's like three preachers walking to a bar, right? They went to this Atlanta Braves game. And unbeknownst to them and the others in the stands that day, a few rows down, was this drunken man who was being disorderly. Apparently pretty disorderly. Because out of nowhere, several burly men wearing, those coats that say security across the back of it, charge down, pick up the guy, and just take him out. And everybody's in like this kind of stunned silence. And then Fred Craddock has this kind of high, not a great preaching voice. He's a great preacher, but his voice is kind of high. Out of nowhere, Fred Craddock goes, "I guess he didn't have his wedding clothes on." Very few people knew at all what he was talking about. What a wedding garment had to do with the troublesome guy being removed by security. And I'm guessing that the whole parable, when you read it, leaves a question mark in your mind, right? What does an item of clothing have to do with staying at a party? Underdressed, maybe. But clearly this is not about clothing. It's a metaphor for taking on the attributes of the host, for accepting this beautifully woven garment of grace, the fullness of God's grace, and then responding to others with grace and forgiveness and empathy and love. In the Book of Joy, the Buddhist Dalai Lama and the Anglican Archbishop Desmond Tutu from South Africa, they agree that the source of joy, the source of festivity and community, it's service. It's getting up in the morning and saying, how can I be of service today? So the Red Cross put out this call for volunteers, and a lot of people responded. But to be chosen, you had to learn the Red Cross way. You had to do things the Red Cross way. You even got a garment. You got tags with your name and the Red Cross logo on it. And you got a vest which identified you and which you had to wear if you wanted to participate. Now, there was a whole lot of reasons for that. One of which is so that the other people whom you were helping knew who to go to, who to trust. My friends, when Jesus says to love your neighbor as yourself, he really means it. That's your people of God wedding garment. Participating in the grace and the love of God that is so deep and wide that you will never come to the end of it. And when you participate in that grace and love by serving and loving others, you've got the hang of the party. You can rejoice. Amen.